Okay, welcome again. This is Grasshopper for Rhino ABCs. I always like to throw a couple things in here. Probably one of the most novel things I found outside of Turbo Squid and whatever, all those online programs where everybody makes everything for you, is McMaster Car. I recommend it to everybody. Basically, go on in, grab an object, say it was a coupling nut, grab the exact dimensions of what you want, uh, go to product details, scroll down to the bottom, save as 3D step file, and there you go. It's in your downloads. Once you're done that, jump into Rhino, go into your import, and import whatever you feel like. I could grab that hex nut and load it in, and it should pop in here. Oh, it's a big one, and hopefully there's no issues with it. Yeah, it's a tiny one. All right, I'll have to stretch and make it bigger, and there we go. Got a great piece of geometry that's made for you. You don't have to make it yourself. It's going to save you tons of time. If you haven't seen that tip, then I don't know where you've been because it's been pretty cool. That's there. That's fine. I'm going to take that one. I'm going to swap it out for the one that I had hidden. And there it is. That's the one I loaded in before. And I've actually got that imported in as a boundary representation for this quick demo. Anyhow, I've got my param shirt on. I'm just about done with this. I thought this would be more interesting than bringing in a cube. Let's take a look at these last ones that are in the utilities, and I've definitely pulled up the ones that I find interesting the most. Let me slide this around here maybe. And we're going to take a look at everything on the right. And for some reason I didn't do these little quickies, so I'm interested why I didn't do those. So let me grab those two, and maybe I'll do those spontaneously while we're waiting. Actually, that's the trick, is they don't want to move because they're locators. So let's just get started, and before I forget to do that, let's go over to these files and show how they can be used. Go into utility. One thing you might want to do is, well, make sure you're in params utility and grab the jump tool, pop it in here. Great little tool for locating things. So let's say I wanted to know that that param, oh my gosh, panel goes to this panel. So that way I can always locate it. So if it was off the page and I double click that, it should jump over and show me where it's connected. So great little tool for connecting you up. And if you like building model train sets, that's a great way to get from one tool to the next. So what I brought in here was a data dam. The way they work is basically I've put down a panel with an integer. I'm going to plug that in, and the data dam is going to, when I activate it, double click it, send the data through. So it's sending that data. So that's pretty simple. A nice little tool here, which just says click me, and you might say, well, what is that? Well, this is a scribble tool. And you can do anything you want. You set the size, the dates. It's a great way to bring in, because what's nice is that doesn't get small like all the other text, so you can actually use that to bring in, and you could put it in and group it, and then it becomes part of that group scribble tool. But since that's not what I'm doing, I'm going to go back and leave it outside there. But it's wonderful. You can just quickly drag it, hit Tab Alt, and you've got another version of it that should jump over here. If not, I guess my program's just running a little slow. I'm probably going to disable things as I go, because I've got so many crazy nodes up on here, trying to cover the entire params tab in about a 20-minute total of videos. Anyhow, what we have here is a data recorder. You're going to need a timer to that, and I thought those were interesting. So what I did was I've taken it off being activated, but I had to go into Firefly plugin and get a couple of things like this. Otherwise, it was impossible. I'm going to enable everything. And now you can see it's recording my voice. It's sending it through a data recorder. I've multiplied it, and I used the digital scroller so I could actually amplify it. So as I'm talking, bleep, 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 you're getting numbers that are averaging between 0 and 2,000 or 10,000. Well, that can be used for geometries. And you can see we're dealing in 165 units. I'm recording every 1 second. And another thing I've got in here is a little relay. I didn't really mean to include it in that grouped thing, and I don't think it actually is. Oh, it is. So just a little practice here. Take it and ungroup that. I ungroup the whole thing, but it gives me my relay. And what's nice about the relay is you can use it to make it appear by just, here we go. I'll just show you here. These numbers coming out, which are a lot. I can double click that wire, and pull in a relay for it. And there it is. And then I'm able to draw out a wire and take that to wherever I have to afterwards. So relays are pretty cool. That said, we've got a lot going on here. I'm trying to keep these videos short, and you can see how slow everything's gotten on my computer, even though I have a pretty good Alienware computer from school. Let's disable that, and that'll be gone. And then what I have here is a way to make clusters. So there's this cluster input and output, and what I did was I actually grabbed a brep, that boundary representation, so we can take all these now, put them in the hiding, and there's that image. And I wrote a little script, very tiny script, taking a volume, locating the centroid, and of course these aren't the nodes I'm looking at the clusters. And what's nice about this, and then you have a geometry that scales it, makes it smaller. So that's a little tool that's, it's using the scale tool, but it also takes a brep, finds the centroid, and scales it to that centroid. There's a number slider here, which means I need multiple inputs. So I'm going to take this input and plug it in here, and it becomes a brep. And I can go back up and grab another input, and I can plug that in where my factor went. And you can see how that works. Then I can take my cluster and have the output geometry. What's nice is I select everything in here, and I scroll click my button, scroll, and I have this option to cluster. And there you go. I made a node out of all that. Now this thing, you can go farther into File, and you can, believe it's called, I might have to have that clicked, create user objects, which I'm not going to do for this one, but you double click on here, and there's quite a few details, and I would say watch a tutorial on that, just like the Firefly. You're going to want to watch tutorials on that. You get this set, and there's your little tiny cluster that goes in, and you can click and save that, and you can put it places. I'm going to discard it because I don't really need it, and I'm going to take this back before I actually did that cluster. It's nice you can hover over here and see the intensity of those, and this is where you can have security on your files, and even though it's made at Wickerson Studios by Michael Wickerson, I can put security passwords on that. I think I will go back just in a sense of seeing, what formula was there, and I might take it back before I actually clustered in the inputs and the output. So just let me do that, and we'll just bring that back to what it was. There we go. I might have went back too far. The other thing I wanted to show was this GOAT program plugin that I had before in this Galapagos. These are optimization things that use fitness landscapes. You're going to definitely want to go into tutorials on that, which I'll do at a later date to get into that, to learn about optimization for like hanging weights and tensions and all that, and building geometries that are much more organically built, in my opinion, are certainly optimized. The last tool I want to bring in, which is one of my favorites, it's a number slider, and of course it has its problems, but it's a really nice thing because you can have as many number sliders as you want in a gene pool, and you can use this tool for incredible things. My favorite thing to do with it is you can right click and edit, and you can go down and you can maybe make this gene count. We'll just do 5 in the gene pool, and we're going to make that range from 0 to 1 to start. Oh my gosh. Let's learn how to do the scroll better. 2 decimal places, not essential, but basically that's going to reset the gene pool. You can right click on it, you can randomize it, you can also play off of the data coming out of there. Obviously I want, and this has gotten a little slow, so let me just double click it. I do want a couple of decimals. Say I wanted to move through a line and have many points on it, points on line from 0 to 1. That would allow me to have a number slider that's maybe in reference to points on curve. And that said, you could go into something like the variable into the I'm not going to get too far into the surface tools, but I'm just going to use an example here of variable pipe, which is an interesting take on piping lines. I try and keep all this to minimal surfaces and everything, so my files stay running pretty fast. Variable pipe. Variable pipe's a pretty cool thing because you can grab a curve, so we would just locate one in our window. We could then set up our parameters 0 to 1, and then as long as you have the same amount of numbers, you can change this, and this could be the radii at different pipes. So you could actually pipe that curve, and as long as your number of gene pool radii matches your parameters, you can then make a pretty interesting pipe. So just an example of that for fun. Why not? Grab it, bring that in, reference that as one curve, and now we should be able to see a geometry piped. And of course, these numbers are so small. Just taking a minute to register, I believe. It is piped. They're so tiny you can't even see them, but there is a pipe little curve there. At least I believe there is. Set one curve. Yeah, that's it. Let me get rid of that one. And then what I may want to do is then bring up my edit count, bring this up to maybe 10 in a maximum, and then I can hopefully see that pipe. Oh, and one thing I've done that I forgot to tell you, which is so essential, which is why I haven't reparameterized this curve from 0 to 1. And in doing so, there you go. You got a pretty simple, interesting, controllable, organic geometry that's set, and if you start shifting these, you'll start to see you have some really weird geometries that overlap and push and pull one another. So that can be kind of fun to change that up. Anyhow, nice little tool for gene pool. I'll start showing more and more examples. We're about ready to go into maths. I'm going to change my shirt, and we're going to go right through domains through utility, which is going to be a much larger program than this. So hopefully in under an hour, we covered everything with basic params. You enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to Michael Wickerson, and I'll keep going as long as you guys keep driving me on. Basically, I'm doing this because I teach, and with this COVID-19, I've got to start putting things online for my own students, and I've got to get some basics down if I'm going to move people from CAD and learning 3D programs into anything algorithmic or computational. Grasshopper is absolutely fantastic. You can see what we did here in this video series. Here it is, and I'm just going to basically grab it along with those little tiny, if you remember these little tiny guys, the jump tools. I'm going to group that. I'm going to grab my color that I like so well, turn it to a nice blue. I'm trying to keep my fingers straight. I'm getting too old. And there we go. And my bifocals plug in. And there we go. I think we've had a pretty good series of what to do with params. I'm stretching this out because I feel pretty good about myself doing this. Everything covered, every param that's listed, and every one that I actually come to use and use often enough that I think it's worth practicing every day. Remember, you don't play and practice the piano, you play the piano. It's one and the same. Or you practice the piano, it's one and the same. Same thing you have to do with this to learn this tool. Thank you very much for watching.